Hello, welcome to the Robots and Pencils Academy. I'm your host, Jonathan Rasmussen. Today we're going to take a look at taking pictures with the iPhone. We're going to take a look at how to bring a camera up on your iPhone, how to programmatically say, hey, I want to take a picture, and then ultimately display that on your iPhone. So let's do it. Let's create a new single view application. Let's give this a name, something fancy like Camera. We're going to call it Camera 3 because this is my third time doing this. Feel free to save that wherever you like. And then once Xcode comes up, go ahead and click on the storyboard. Give yourself a little more real estate if you like. And as you can see, this is an iOS 6 application. The views are getting a little bit bigger than our previous tutorials here. Now I'm going to work with the default view they gave us. What I want to do is put a navigation bar in the upper, right at the very top of this. So I'm going to just go click Editor, Embed In, just like we did in our navigation controller episode, and just kind of give me a nice blue bar at the top because that's where I want to embed a camera in the upper right-hand corner here. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to come down to our utility pane down here. I'm going to type bar button item because this is where I want people to tap when they want to take a picture. So I'm just going to drag that up there, give it a name like camera, and that's all the UI work we're going to do on these views to get set up to take a picture with a camera. Actually, there's one more thing we want to do. I want to connect this button to an action in my view controller. So I'm just going to bring up the assistant editor here and flip to the viewcontroller.m file. And I just want to create a method that's going to get called when someone taps that button in the upper right-hand corner. So I'm going to click the bar button item, hold down the control key, drag over to my implementation area here, let go, and I'm going to create an action called Take Picture. And you can use the type ID. I like being a little more explicit. I'm going to make that a bar button item. I'm going to connect that up, and there. Now we're ready to go. This is where the magic's going to happen, where we're actually going to tell this thing how to take a picture, display an image picker, and set all that stuff up. Now, just because we're mostly going to be working in code, I'm going to dismiss the assistant editor. I'm going to come over here and bring up my view controller so I've got the whole screen, and now we're ready to go. Now the first thing we need to do if we want to work with what's called the image picker is we basically need to import the delegate that allows us to display the screen, which is going to let people take pictures. And that's called the UI image picker control delegate. We need to implement that delegate to basically enable our view controller here to display one. Now in the interest of time, I'm going to drop in a block of code here, and then we're going to go through it line by line, and I'll explain what's going on. Before we can take a picture on our iOS device, it's good to do a couple of checks. The first check we want to do is we want to make sure that our device actually has a camera or it supports the ability to take pictures and video. So the way we do that check is we use our UI image picker controller and we ask it, hey, is this source type available? And this is a type in iOS called type camera, where we can basically say, hey, do you even have a camera? If the answer to that question is yes, we can come in here and we can ask the camera for the types of media it supports. There's basically two types. There's going to be pictures and movies. In this case, we want to know if it supports the image type. Are you a camera that can take pictures? So we ask its media types, which is a dictionary, whether it contains that type. And if it does, now we're ready to actually display the UI picker controller, which is like its own little model view controller, which is going to come up on the screen and allow people to take pictures. Then all we need to do is set ourselves up as the delegate to basically say, hey, if there's any callbacks you want to call while they're taking a picture, you can talk to me. We say our source type is going to be camera. Our media type is going to be image. And we can allow editing or not. And then we basically just display that on the screen and let people take their picture. Now, as you can see, there's a few things that are wrong with this code. First of all, it doesn't know what this KUTT type image is. And this is a bit annoying. This comes from another library within iOS that we need to import before we can use this type. So let me show you how to do that first. Click on your project at the very top, that blue icon up there, and then move over to this area called Build Settings. That's a tab at the top. In there, you'll see a couple of arrows and a couple of different options. Whoops. I'm sorry. Click on Build Phases, not Build Settings. Build Phases, that's the one we want. Open up Link Bind and With Libraries, and you see this plus sign? These little yellow boxes represent libraries that we get by default with the new iOS project. The one we want isn't there. So we're going to hit this plus sign. Then type the word mobile at the top, and you should see Mobile Core Services come up. Go ahead and select that, click Add, come back to your view controller, and now we should be able to import that statement to the top. So now we should be able to go import. Now this is a core class, so it's going to have the square bracket. Mobile Core Services, go ahead and import that. And now, at least it knows what this image type is. Now the next thing we need to fix is this picker delegate type. It's just a little bit confused here. You see this word delegate is used in both the UI image picker controller delegate and the UI navigation controller delegate. So it's confused. And the way we unconfuse it is, even though we're not explicitly using the UI navigation controller delegate, we import it up here. And that way, when we say picker.delegate, it knows which ones we want to use. Unfortunately, this is just something we need to do. This is just a naming collision. And this is how we resolve it, by just importing that navigation controller delegate also. Okay, so that's great. That will display a camera on the screen and let people take a picture. Now the next thing we need to do is handle, well, what happens once they finish taking that picture? What do we do with it after? That's what this next chunk of code is going to do for us, starting right up here. This is a callback that gets invoked when they finish taking the picture. Image picker controller did finish picking media with info. Now there's a couple things in here. We got our picker and we have a dictionary of info. What we do here is, first of all, we grab an image, in this case our edited image, from that dictionary, and then we do a check. We say, hey, did I actually get an edited image? If I didn't, then go ahead and grab the original image, because sometimes we might get an edited image and sometimes we want the original image. It depends on what they did. But once we have an image, then we can take it and go ahead and create a UI image view, just using the image view alloc, creating it with the image that we pulled from the dictionary. And then all this code here is resizing it, basically. Sometimes the images we can take on our iOS devices are really big, like they're really beautiful, really high resolution. But we don't want to display that in its original size on our phone necessarily. So this code here just creates a rectangle and checks the size of the frame and keeps looping until it's within a tolerable range for us, which in our case is 200 pixels. We're basically saying once it gets down to that 200 range, that's acceptable for us. Go ahead and reset the frame size on that image view we created, and then just add it to our screen. We're not going to do anything fancy with it here. We're just going to dump it on the screen and see what it looks like. Then we always need to dismiss our image picker, and we do that in two places. Once when they finish taking the picture, and secondly in the event that they just click cancel. Maybe they change their mind and they don't want to take a picture. So that's why there's this method here that I created called dismiss image picker, which gets called from two places, which just dismisses it in an animated way. This is just a block where we could do some extra processing upon completion, but here we don't really care. That's why we can just pass in nil. Now, if we ran this right now, everything would work, but there's just one thing I want to add, which makes things just a little bit nicer. If we ran this right now, it would display that button with the text camera on it, but what I really want to do is display an icon, a nice default camera icon available to us in iOS. And the way we can do that is with this. We can basically get our navigation item, the right bar button item in the upper right hand corner. That's an explicit thing we can get our hands on. And then we can basically say, hey, can you initialize that button with an actual camera button, like a specific UI bar button item type camera? That's just a really nice thing to do because the camera icon's a lot nicer than the text. Then here we just say the target is ourselves, and if someone taps that, go ahead and invoke this method called TakePicture. Or this is like saying selector or method TakePicture. Go ahead and call that on ourselves if someone taps that. This is the equivalent of doing the control drag from our button over to that take image method at the very top. It's just a nice thing to do. So if you're wondering how that camera icon got up there, this is how it happens. So with that, we should be able to go ahead and click run, and let's see what it looks like. So here's our app. We've got the nice camera icon in the upper right-hand corner. If we click that, we'll flip into camera mode. We can cancel, or we can go ahead and take a picture. In this case, I'm going to take a picture of this book. Go click, and we can use that, and voila, it will rescale it down to about 200 pixels and display that in our view controller. So that's all there is to taking pictures on iOS. Basically, check your device type, verify you can take pictures, and then maybe in the future episodes, we'll do something more interesting with this picture. We'll take a look at how to take this and maybe display it within a UI table view or something. But I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for coming out, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.